I want to lay something on you here. It's a quote. And it starts, as quotes do, with some quote marks. Quote, "The stagnant and the outdated have no place in 2020. There's change in the air." Now, this quote was from December 2019. And the person who said it is our next guest, Michael Madrusan, or Madrusan, depending on how you're feeling. Michael's a giant in the bar world in Australia and one of our sort of best representatives of sophisticated drinking worldwide. He's the co-founder of the Made in the Shade group, which comprises the Everleigh, Heartbreaker, and Bar Margaux. Anyone who drinks well in Australia, or possibly even in the wider world these days, may in fact owe some of the quality of what they're drinking to Michael and to his cohorts. He's worked in London, he's worked in New York. He was a respected senior alumni, is that plural? Alumnus of Milk and Honey, one of the most influential bar groups in the world. And we're very lucky that he calls Melbourne, I should say, home today. Speaking of luck, let's see if we can get him on the line. I might even put a frame on in the meantime. Michael, if you're out there, please do join us. I have a beautiful frame with your name on it, ready to go. Oh, look at that. Fantastic. Let's send him a request and see if he'd like to join us. Michael, this is Melbourne calling. Are you there?
Hi. Evening.
Good evening. Hello. If any of you are worried that you've stumbled onto an episode of Separated at Birth, Michael is the better looking man in the lower frame wearing glasses.
Cool. That's a great looking haircut you got there.
Would you believe I did it myself?
Me too. Oh my God. It's enough. Please.
Big shout out to Turnley's Hairdressing and Barbershop Supplies, just up the road from you on Gertrude Street.
Know the sign. Yep.
I might even do my plugs at the beginning. My plugs are to the principal partner of the Melbourne Food and Wine Festival, the Bank of Melbourne, and to our destination partner, Visit Victoria. But my personal props have to go to Turnley's for keeping this so deliciously aerodynamic. Thank you, Turnley's.
Amazing.
Speaking of exciting props, Michael, a gentleman with a beard nearly as nice as yours just knocked on my door minutes ago with this.
Oh, nice.
It's warm and it smells good, which is better than I can say for most of my postal deliveries. This could be my debut as an unboxing influencer right here. I don't know. What do we got in here? Oh, check this out, ladies and gentlemen. It says "To der Mur," which I think is French for hot buttered rum.
Our house specialty.
Thanks to the wonders of technology, I think quite a few of you at home are joining us with this evening. Michael, I have a warmed glass standing by. It's not a toddy glass. I hope you're not insulted by that. And I have, oh my God, this is really quite hot. That's quite remarkable. This into this?
Absolutely. Yeah, you should have looked nutmeg on the side of that.
Oh, let me just take a look here. Would you like to talk to nice people while I look for the nutmeg?
Of course. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name's Michael. Pat's done a great intro. Super happy to be part of this tonight. It's really exciting. I've been looking forward to it all week. We are currently awaiting our opening deadlines, which is super exciting. But until then, we pour that nutmeg, buddy. Now that nutmeg didn't come out of a bottle. That was hand grated. There's a massive difference. So
wait, just let me get my switchblade out. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's the real
stuff. That's the real stuff.
Will you join me? Don't let me hear my own mic.
Hello. one I prepared earlier. Cheers.
Cheers.
This one here, the hot buttered rum goes crazy.
Fuck yeah.
How's that temperature?
It's good. I don't know how. I don't like to ask how it arrived so warm, but I'm impressed that it did.
Well, I did suggest yesterday that perhaps the drivers should drive with one hand on the wheel, the other hand on the sous vide, as we're keeping the drink hot. The staff weren't into it.
Emotion circulators on wheels. So, I mean, you've been in the business of delivering cold things cold and now hot things hot. This is, quite the month for logistics.
Look, I tell you what, it's been a really interesting time to learn how to do new things, I suppose. And we haven't. Look, we're not in the bread game. We're in the drinks game. So I think we just had to figure out how to get drinks to people, freshest and quickest, hottest or coldest, as possible, and make sure that everyone was getting their money's worth, I think. So I'm glad the hot buttered rum's not lukewarm.
It's nowhere near as sexy a sounding drink.
The lukewarm buttered, the tepid buttered rum. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Michael, the title of this conversation is How to Drink Better. And I think that title sort of contains, I guess, an implied suggestion that maybe drinking hasn't always been great. What's the context of this? I mean, did you grow up in Australia? And if you did, or whether you did or not, what was a cocktail when you were growing up?
I did. I've got a pretty good story about my introduction to cocktails and drinks. My mum was a bartender. My stepdad was a bartender. I remember as early as I think 7 or 8 testing my mum specs for her, cocktail exams.
Wow.
Yeah. So
where was
really,
this, Michael?
I was learning drink specs at about 7 or 8. Yeah.
And where were we?
Newcastle. Yeah. Newcastle here, Australia.
Shout out to the Novocastrians on the line.
Shout out. Hi, Mum. So yeah, I got to cast my eyes, and back then the drinks I was learning were indeed the fluffy ducks and all those kind of interesting specs.
The Eddie Torado years.
Sorry?
The Eddie Torado years.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, as a first grader going to school talking about the fluffy duck, well, I didn't get a big audience, in all honesty. People didn't really catch on. But now I talk about the fluffy duck, I still get the same response, actually. So I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, growing up, I guess, with cocktails around the house, or being talking about it with my mum from such an early age, it was always around. My parents went to open up their own restaurants, and that kind of continued, and I started bartending pretty early on, and then moved to the UK. And
what had been the baseline in Australia? I mean, your mention of Newcastle reminds me that I think maybe the first cocktail I ordered in a bar was in the Leagues Club in Bathurst, probably when I was about 18 years old. And because I'm a sophisticate, Michael, I ordered a martini, which came from gin that was warm from the shelf with vermouth that was probably 30 to 40 years old, also warm from the shelf. And it came in one of those V-shaped cocktail glasses, but it was made by Decor, the people who make your sort of lunch boxes and picnic gear, and it was made of see-through plastic. And, I felt very sophisticated, of course, drinking a martini, but as I drank my warm, large, break-proof martini, I did think to myself, is this all there is? Is this what cocktails are about?
I'm not gonna, rubbish the venue.
Bathurst Leagues Club.
Bathurst Leagues Club, but that may have been as good as it gets for them back then. I don't know. They could have reworked a couple of specs. They probably could have got a slightly younger bottle of vermouth, maybe 20-year vermouth. Maybe
They had a
up
slushy machine.
glassware
They
to
could have at least
glass.
used that.
Having said that, Decor was a cool brand. Weirdly enough, I recently I recently bought like the Decor. I don't know who decided or when they decided, but Decor released a kind of a holder for the goon bag.
Mm, I know the
Yeah.
one.
So you put it in, you put the lid on top, you put the little nozzle on the front, and you're good to go. It's the classy goon. So I bought one just in case I was ever going to need it. But that's why Decor is front and center in my mind right now. I
When
don't know
you
where.
when you went to London, did you notice an appreciable were the standards higher than what you'd maybe seen in Australia
Living
at the
standards?
time?
Yeah. Oh, look, very much. I think, like so many other people, I think, I was working in a pub collecting my respectable £4 an hour. Yeah, having a good time. Like I guess the cocktail bars and all that kind of stuff didn't really kick in until probably around about the 2004 when I left the pub and went to an Aussie bar that was doing cocktails, and there I fell in love with their 32 cocktail list. But yes, but ultimately, I really enjoyed kind of making beers and Moscow mules or just vodka and ginger or gin and slims, all that kind of jazz over there. And then I moved to New York, and well, I mean, if you didn't know anything about cocktails in New York, then you were really hard pressed to get a job anyway. So even the local taverns could make the New York cocktails, like the Appletini and the Washington Appletini and all that fun stuff. So yeah, started getting into that, and I was working for a wonderfully respected pizza guy in the financial district, and uh, a customer of mine knew one of the guys from Milk and Honey, and I'd heard of this place, Milk and Honey, and I was like, who is it anyway? So, like, the thing about those Milk and Honey guys back in the day is, whenever they entered a room, it's like they had their own like kind of music, like kind of playing with them. So the door would open and some breeze would blow, and you'd have like this like rock and roll song, like the Strokes would start playing as soon as like a Milk and Honey bartender walked in the door. Anyway, so I thought it was pretty cool. So I had to, I had to make friends with this guy and get on in. And lucky for me, he's still one of my best and dearest friends today. He got me in the door over there, and the rest is history, really.
So
Yeah.
for those of us who might be unfamiliar with Milk and Honey, they generally serve not that much milk, and when they do delve into honey or did delve into honey, it was generally heavily diluted with a mixture of blended whiskey, peated whiskey, and ginger. What was Milk and Honey actually all about? You speak about this bar with so much
Hmm.
reverence. Where was that coming
Yeah.
from?
Look, Milk and Honey, I think, was such an amazing a symbol of where, I call it a symbol. It was a symbol of where we could be as a drinking culture. I think where we could go to. It was civilized drinking, even though you'd still leave at 7 o'clock in the morning, and there's
So
nothing
walk
civilized.
us through it. We're walking down a seemingly kind of relatively quiet street on the Lower East Side of
Yep.
Manhattan.
Yep.
What do we see?
Rats, mostly rats. Really big rats. Yeah, down that end of Chinatown, lots of rats. And then you'll see an old window, and it would say, and it still says today, it says M&H Taylor's, and that used to be the Milk and Honey. It was an unmarked. It was marked in the way it was M&H 134 Eldridge, and look, it was we didn't have a published number or address because it could only fit 26 people, and there were tenants upstairs who would have really kicked off if it was quite noisy. So I guess the speakeasy element of Milk and Honey, and it was probably the birth of the neo speakeasies. It was actually because it needed to be a quiet bar, and not because it was cool. So that was, and I think that's something that not a lot of people know, is that while the neo speakeasy kind of thing was really fun and great to kind of get involved in, for Sasha and Milk and Honey, it was something that had to be. So
Practical consideration.
yeah. Sorry.
A practical consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's kind of how it kicked off, and it was a beautiful room. And I tell you, I don't think there has ever been an experience I think I've had since the moment I did walk in there the first time, and I walked through these curtains and the reveal, the double curtains. You go in through one set of curtains and you're in pitch black, and then you go in through the second set, and then you were just taken to a different place. And so I went there on my 26th birthday.
So what did it look like? What did you see? That second curtain pulls back, and
then you've got some jazz playing. You've got candles. It's very dark. You've got 6 booths and 4 seats at the bar. You got a bartender who may or may not say hello to you. Depends, who's telling them that they're amazing. I don't know. And a host and a server. So it was a very small team on any given night. It was a tiny venue, and you didn't need too much anyway. We also never had cocktail menus or lists. So the idea where you could sit down and you could talk to the bartender or the server and tell them things that you really enjoyed, the things that you liked, which became so incredibly famous and synonymous with the Sasha venues. It was so much fun, and it was great that you didn't need to go, all right, cool, I'll get the red grasshopper, thanks, and then it would just show up. It was a lot more connection, a lot more of an experience. You got to know with every drink order, you got to learn a little bit more about the people you were serving. So it was the ultimate in kind of connection. And in my experience, I learned so much about all of our customers because we always had a conversation. And it's something that especially at the Ev, when we opened the Ev, it was triple the size almost of Milk and Honey. So we had to have menus just to keep that flow kind of going. But our biggest selling drinks are still what we call the bartender's choice, where you do have a conversation and we get to talk about the things that you like and the things you don't like. And we work through it together, like it's a team effort to get the drink you're after.
What I mean, you own 3 bars, and they are, or 3 venues, I should say, and they are quite distinctly different. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is an international festival. We have people beaming into this conversation from all over the world, and some of them, poor souls of the hour, might not have been to Melbourne yet. What's the sort of mood board? What's the vibe that describes the Everleigh as opposed to Heartbreaker, as opposed to Bar Margot?
Yep. The big one, and Zara will say this to me all the time, that the Everleigh is incredibly masculine. There's a lot of heavy timber, a lot of dark wood, heavy timber. It's very bar centric. So you do walk in and you do get smacked with a big bar behind you. It is a bit of a show, There's no real, and because we do so many cocktails, you can't mistake the sound of the big blocks shaking, or the sound of those blocks chicka, 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 shaking all the way. You hear it from coming up the stairs, like your nose gets hit with mint and ginger that's always in the ice, and then the sound of the shaking tins is kind of like, you just know that you're in for a great night. When you smell those smells and you hear those sounds coming up the stairs, it's perfect. And I think for me, it's my favorite. Normally my favorite time is actually setting up the bar. I love that. I love putting the bar together. But for me, when I walk up the stairs at the Ev every time and I smell the ginger and the mint and I hear those shakers going, it's like perfect. You know, wouldn't matter if there was a light bulb out. I'm lying. I hate blown light bulbs. But yeah, look, the Everleigh, being that it's absolutely dedicated to an older time, you know, the turn of the century, I guess, or will
Turn of the other
the
century.
early 1900s. You know, we've got my book collection in the cabinet there, which I have been collecting for going on almost 20 years now. I've got the original milk and honey cash register right behind me. That was a gift from Sasha when I was coming over here to open the bar. He gave me the cash register, and above me, I've got a chandelier that my aunt brought over on the boat from Italy in the
Get it.
40s. So yeah, look, you know, and I've got a couple of pictures of my old grandparents around on the walls. But look, it's I think it's home, isn't it? You know, for 8 years, and before Heartbreaker, before we opened Heartbreaker, and before we opened Margot, it was home. You know, as any owner would, you know, would say the same, that you know you're here 7 days a week. You're always here. So if it's not comfortable to you, then you're doing something wrong, because you need to be comfortable in somewhere where you're spending 80 hours a week at least. So. But yeah, it's pretty. It's not. I think it's pretty. Zara thinks it's very masculine, but I think it's real pretty.
And then Heartbreaker, different vibe, different
Yep.
sound.
Yep.
I really liked your I really liked your, and one of the commenters just said they really liked the way you broke that down by the smell and the sound of walking into the venue. If you had your eyes closed and you pushed through the door into Heartbreaker on a Friday night when we're not in the midst of a global pandemic, what's the palette there?
Heartbreaker is such a fun one to talk about because it's built around a feeling. I think I was behind this bar the day I decided to do a bar like Heartbreaker, and I was listening to Led Zeppelin, and I had texted a friend and I said, I just want to have a bar where this music is playing all the time. And I came across a photo that was Led Zeppelin in front of their tour plane at the time, and I said, and that's it. I said, this photo, that's Heartbreaker. That is what Heartbreaker is. So for me, Heartbreaker, and this is why it's been a conscious decision for Zara and I not to reopen until it's absolutely time. But you know, the feeling of Heartbreaker, you don't need to open your eyes. You know, you can keep them closed, and it's what you hear. You hear the music, you hear the people. You know,
The music is loud enough that you don't even need to open your ears. You can feel it in your pelvis.
man. I remember the first week I opened, I'd gone home for a shower. It was like a Friday night. I'd gone home for a shower, and I was coming back into the bar, and I heard AC/DC, and it was Whole Lotta Rosa, and it was so loud, so loud. I don't know how anybody could have ordered a drink, and I thought, man, this is amazing. You know, I had a couple of people say that music's a bit loud. We adjusted it here and there. But the music should be loud. You should be feeling, you're right, it should be in your pelvis. You know, I think music like that, you know, should be going through your body. I think that's awesome. I think it's the best.
I don't think I've ever ordered a drink at Heartbreaker except by pointing. So
I think that's the best way to order. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So Heartbreak was fun. It was a really great next project for us to dive into, because I think we were about 4 or 5 years into the Everleigh, and I had 5 years behind me in the same setting, and I really wanted to branch out and really have some fun with it. And I think for me, doing something like Heartbreaker didn't mean that I had to compromise any of our quality or standards. So we wanted to do something that was loud and fun and new and exciting and late night and all kinds, and do away with the formality. You know, we wanted to take the tie and the vests off and just go and swing a pool stick around and play on the jukebox. Man, I put so much money into that jukebox. It was crazy. It was so much fun, and it was just about giving that fun, that power back. I think after we come through a really serious time, it was good to let our hair down. I mean, not me. I didn't have any, but but it was great just to let our hair down with it. It was awesome. Yeah, we're so proud of Heartbreaker. It was a good one. Can't wait to get that back up and running in 2028 when they let people stand up in the bar again.
And then it's a very different vibe at Bar Margot again.
Yep, another interesting story, and I think it's important to note that we get pretty emotionally involved with the projects before they come to light. Margot was actually penned for the Bells space before it was Bells. Upstairs and downstairs were available.
For those of us who aren't conversant with Fitzroy shorthand, what does that mean?
Bell's Hot Chicken on the corner of Gertrude Street and Napier Street below us. A very fine hot chicken establishment.
Fitzroy shorthand PS would be a great name for a Fitzroy shorthand. Sounds like a great name for a cocktail or a chokehold in wrestling if you're ever looking for one.
The Fitzroy shorthand. We'll talk to the guys. It wasn't always called Bell's Hot Chicken, however. The original name was Bell's Diner. Yeah. So they just kept the bells and turned it into a hot chicken situation. But yes, that space was available. At the same time, we took upstairs here at the Everleigh, and my sister said, "Just take it, and let's do white tile." I remember the conversation, and I'm so stupid that I actually almost considered it, but we didn't have any money anyway, so it would never have happened. But I would have entertained the idea. Anyway, in the end, we didn't. And when Margot came along, and that was a pretty interesting story. I think I was putting the new operating hours on at Heartbreaker, and the owner at the time had come past, and he was, he's a funny little, he's an interesting guy. Anyway, he came and said, "Hey, Mike, you need to come and see my space." I said, "Mate, I'm busy." He said, No, you got to come check it out. And I said, "Mate, go away." He said, "But it's got a 24-hour license." I said, "All right, let's go have a look." So I went and had a look, and as soon as I walked in, there we go. There's this basement with this Eurotrash kind of fit out, and I just saw the bar, and I called my sister and I said, "I think we found the white tile joint," and she was like, "Ugh." And she normally makes that sound when I come up with ideas because it means that she's gonna have to do a whole lot of free work. So
the white tile joint, I like that. Is that a reference to that sort of Keith McNally kind of vibe?
100%. So Keith McNally and his empire at the time in New York was based on a bar called St. Regis in Paris. And from that, he built a bar, a really, really popular spot that opened up on the Lower East Side called Schiller's. And anyone who'd been in New York, and Schiller's was a busy joint, and that was a white tile place, and it was white tile with this yellow lighting, and this zigzag kind of fluorescent stuff in the ceiling, and it was just great fun. It was really average food and worse service, and the drinks weren't any good either, but it was just kind of cool. And that's when you weren't getting mugged. So with that, there were a bunch of doing Margot was pretty easy to put together in many ways. There were a couple of really key design elements that had to happen. So my poor sister, being in the design world, was kind of pushed into a situation where she had to design all the lighting and all the furniture, and luckily for us, she did so in a timely fashion, and it came along. So we've got a 24-hour French white tile joint that is just begging for a good time. And I think with that, I mean, it was our first real serious foray into food. So we wanted to make sure that we were kind of doing it right. I'd known Daniel Southern for a really long time. I worked at Com when I first moved to Melbourne when he was head chef. So I knew Daniel for quite some time, and we kept in contact. And knowing that this was coming on, we gave him a call, and he came on board, and he gave us, he started cooking recipes that that was so familiar and like just part of his entire bloodstream, and he just put them out on a plate, and that was something I didn't have to worry about because I knew Daniel had it. So I think for me, the biggest thing with Margot was making sure that we had to decide what we wanted out of it, I suppose, and we didn't want to take our business away from the Everleigh, and didn't want to take away from Heartbreaker, but we still wanted to make sure that people were having a good time. So we wanted to make sure that we were putting good food on a plate and great juice in a glass. And so I think we got to step up our wine game and continue our cocktail game, and then take, I guess, the things that we learned with Heartbreaker, and that is really about showing people a good time and making sure that there isn't any focus on the venue and its people, and the ego is checked at the door, which has always been kind of our kind of family kind of, we've always lived by that. We've never really been a big fan of the ego. So, look, and, we hope we kind of answered that call, and it was a late night call, which was, a very big, heavy amount of workload and stuff that had to go into that. So, yeah. But looking, I feel like it's a bit of a shame with Margot because it was really, really hitting her stride at the time we shut down. So it's been sad to see her kind of sleeping at the moment. She's kind of a bit of an untamed beast.
Are all the bars she?
Yes, always.
Have you ever worked in a bar that's he or other?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Is it like with ships, perhaps?
Maybe, yeah. They've always been cheese. Yes. I've never worked in a he bar.
Stay tuned. When you happen to be out stepping out for a refreshment and we're not in the midst of a pandemic lockdown, how do you navigate a cocktail list? How do you read a cocktail list?
Interesting. Look, I'll read it if it's one page. If it's, I think if it's too long, I think you run the risk of getting lost as a consumer. I think, and I say that, and we've got 2 pages at the Everleigh, but two different cocktail offerings. But I think once a standard cocktail list goes over the page, I think it's really hard to kind of keep your attention, I think. So for me, I've got a few drinks that I really enjoy, which change given the mood. Sometimes it's beer and a shot time, which is a lot. Sometimes it's the Americano Perfecto, which is awesome. I think just taking an Americano and topping it up with beer is also cool. But yeah, when I'm looking at a list, I think you want to see what they pride themselves on. You want to see what they're interested in. if you're at the bar, you can have a chat about what they're doing. But for the most part, I think I normally go to the things that I really enjoy as a result. But if somebody was to say, "Hey, I've got this great drink, you should try it," I'm always going to try it.
As the result of a visit to the Elk Room, which is, I guess, I don't know how you describe it, the event space, or one of the bars you have off the main bar at the Everleigh for a friend's birthday not so long ago. The second serve has become the favorite drink in our household for 2020.
Is that right? When have we worked on a second cert? That's one of ours. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I had it at your bar, and it's been, it's served as well. It's never been quite as good as in the bar, but it's been bloody good.
It's interesting. Good. That's great. I'd come over and make it for you, but I'd have to.
You might have a deal there. So when my girlfriend Helena, hi Helena, if you're watching, from one of the other rooms in our house, I hope you're enjoying this. When she goes out for coffee in unfamiliar territory, she's faced with like the choice between two coffee bars, and they're both unknown. She does a sort of triage. She'll sort of look at the place, and this isn't foolproof, but she'll has a sort of point system running in her head. Like, if they have flavored syrups behind the counter, then that's like -2 points. If they have a grinder, those fancy German grinders from that brand she of, then she's like, okay, that's a positive sign. And she does all this in a split second. Like, when you walk into a bar, what are you looking for in a good bar? What are the tells?
Yeah, lighting. Yeah, the two most important things for me, I think, when I go into a bar is how bright the lights are, or how low the lights are, and how loud the music is. I think my point system is based on probably that to be lighting, music, and then if somebody actually says hello to me when I walk in, it's always nice to have someone say hello. I think after this whole situation is over, I think there's going to be a few more hellos kicking about, to be honest.
I absolutely agree with you on that point. I was just thinking it as you were saying it.
Mm-hmm.
I think customers, I would like to think that customers will be viewed as an exciting thing to walk through the door rather than a chore that has to be handled and managed. Because I have certainly felt like the latter sometimes walking into a venue, and it never makes me want to spend money with that place.
Yeah. I think, look, we've all got a very serious role in the rebuild, I think, of the industry and our way of life, the way that we like to live and socialize and be humans. I think we've all got a real role in it. I think the venues that really do genuinely appreciate customers and their jobs and being able to make people happy will be the ones that do get repeat service, I think. I think customers also have a right to be really sensitive toward how they're being respected, treated, appreciated. Moving forward, it's going to be a really big step for people to go to trust and to go into venues. I was telling somebody today, I think it's really important that the venues have a very solid get back to work plan and a really good care program to make people feel much more comfortable about their decision of coming out tonight and getting off the couch. I think we've got a really big role to play there because people will be really nervous and uncomfortable. I think, and anyone that does want to come out, I think, I thank you so much, but we have to make sure as venues and staff that we're really on top of making them understand just how serious their safety is to us. Just like we understand that our staff and our own safety is important. So, it's going to be there's a lot to learn, I think, for venues and operators and bartenders. Are, you know, the way that you've served drinks prior to all of this happening is different to the way you're going to serve them next week. And I think people need to remember that and understand that and be really sensitive. I think there are people that are going to be screaming to come back, and there are going to be people that are going to come back and be quite nervous. So, you know, you're going to have to be incredibly sensitive, all hospitality people, you know, and regardless of how hard it's been for this industry up to now, I think, you know, I think we really have to, we've got a lot of work to do. It's just opening the doors there's still so much work to be done.
Does that mean no more body shots at the Everleigh?
Body shots are on hold.
God damn this virus. Oh!
Yeah, take the temperature of the belly button. Yeah. Body shots are temporarily on hold.
While we're, you know, a lot of us are drinking at home at the moment. That's where we're doing our entertaining. I mean, it's been nice being able to have people back to our homes again. It's also, you know, for a lot of people, whether it's been cooking or making your own bread or making drinks for people, it's probably reminded us that, you know, a lot of the stuff that we enjoy in bars, restaurants, and cafes invisibly actually takes a hell of a lot of work. You know, if you're having more than one round of cocktails at home and they're not Negronis, like if you've got 6 people over and you're having 3 rounds of margaritas, that's a lot of elbow work, man.
It is. It's good.
How do we get better at doing this at home? I might have even start to address the title of our session directly, Michael. How do we drink better and maybe at home?
There are a few really simple kind of rules that can help make a massive difference. I think quality is probably the biggest thing that we can harp on in terms of making a good, delicious drink. You've got to use quality ingredients. So that, you know, that means that you can't use the lime or the lemon that you see on the shelf at the supermarket that's shaped like a lime or a lemon. Like that's not that concentrate.
The plastic one with the
lid.
lid.
In the margarita. It's very cute, but it's just not going to make the margarita taste great. So you have to use fresh lime. So juicing fresh lime in a margarita, and that has to happen. It's not fresh lime yesterday, fresh lime today. You know, tequila. You know, Sierra is not your friend. It's not going to make you a great cocktail. We're going to have to fork out for a nicer tequila, I think, if you really want to impress your friends.
Because we're not making bouillabaisse here. You know, we're not making beef Wellington. We're usually making something with 3, maybe 6 ingredients. You know, so it's like making anything else, I guess. Am I right in thinking that you got booze, you got something acidic, usually citrus, and you've got something that maybe adds some sweetness and some flavor. So buy good booze. If you're using citrus, make it fresh. And then the other really important thing is making it cold, right?
Mm-hmm.
Temperature is like the rum.
Temperature is very important. And dilution is the other one. That's the one that I walk in. That's probably one of my more common complaints in so many bars that we walk into, that you'll see somebody shake a cocktail and then leave the shaker on the bar and go and talk to somebody and then go and get the glass and then think about straining it out of the shaker. You know, like when you add too much water, you're killing the drink. So, you know, if you're making a margarita at home, use fresh ingredients. You use quality ingredients. Shake your cocktail with lots of ice. Get it nice and cold, but then strain it straight away. Take it out of that and get it away from that ice. Stop that over dilution process, because it's just going to get really watery and disgusting. And that's, I mean, and look, you've only got a couple of ingredients, so you've got to make sure that they're all going to come out. You know, there's no hiding. There's no lies behind there's no lies behind simple drinks like classic cocktails. You know, like you've got to adhere to those rules, and quality ingredients is the main one. But you know, taking it next level, you've got to get it cold, and you've got to get it away from wet ice. You know, all that over dilution, because it's just gonna kill it. It'll not kill it, but it could be better. It could always be better, and that's, I think, probably something that's not said enough in the industry, or B, when you're making drinks for guests coming over to the house. You know, like, it could be better. Yeah, it tastes fine, sure, but like, fine isn't good enough. You know, make it better. You know, like, they deserve
have a decent amount of ice in your freezer.
Ice is important.
And have nice ice. I guess this is I'm not positioning this for you as a layup, but you do happen to have an ice company.
I do. Yeah, I'm one of the more respected ice dealers in the Fitzroy Collingwood area.
That's true. Michael is one of the more respected ice dealers in the Fitzroy Collingwood area. Michael and Zara's company, the Navy Strength Ice Company, will deliver to your very home, in fact.
Yeah, that's a new thing. That's pretty exciting. So we, yeah, we're like the most common return there is, oh, it's just frozen water. Why are you selling ice, or how do you sell ice? It's like, well, because we do.
Good one, Oscar Wilde.
And it's, man, I got deep there. I'm sorry. It's been a long day. But the ice we make is incredible. It is beautiful. It's crystal clear. It's a really beautiful piece. And it's kind of it's the ice that it takes a lot less time to melt, given the size of the block itself, and the density of the ice as well. But we do have an ice company. We have just started selling it online, which is really exciting. We'd love to see if we could get into a retail kind of situation with that, because I think it would be so cool to be able to pick up crystal clear blocks, you know, on your way home, while collecting a couple of Everleigh bottling cocktails from your local meatsmith store when you're getting delicious eye fillet as well for dinner. But yeah, look, ice is a really, really important ingredient, and I think that's something that people are starting to get hip to a little bit at the moment, which is great, because it's been a long time coming, and it basically, I mean, in an old fashioned, it's the only ingredient that's got a job, you know, and it really is. Ice's job is to chill the drink or keep it cold. If you're using a block of ice, it's actually diluting a lot less. So you're adding less water to it if you're using better quality ice.
It also has that beautiful sensory feeling, like when you've got a nice heavy glass and you've got a good chunk of ice in there and some nice booze. It's just like, oh, baby.
The classic clink, absolutely.
You're not saving lives. It's not about the goddamn drink. Quote, unquote, Michael Madrusan. But at the same time, you know, anyone who's listened to this session or been to any of your bars can't help but observe that you are a super detailed guy. How do you strike the balance between those things?
Quite easily, I think, in many ways. I know what we do isn't saving lives. I've always known that, and I've never for once thought that it was anything more than an opportunity for people to come and have a good time and enjoy a drink. And that is all I need. I think where I've seen a lot of bartenders and kind of operators go wrong in the past is when they're not satisfied with that, when they feel like they need something more than that, when they feel like they need someone to constantly tell them how good they are or how good something is. I think for us, you know, like, take hospitality down to its roots, and we really are here to serve. We're here to make people feel great, and you know, the detailed part is probably something that I got from from Sasha because he was absolutely addicted to the details, even to the amount of points that your star anise had on the garnishes, and and that was a great thing.
That's some Robert De Niro and Casino shit right there. Like,
Man,
wow.
Sasha was a bit of a freak like that, but in the best way.
And
And
Sasha, ladies and gentlemen, I should say, was the founder and owner of the Milk and Honey bars.
mhm, that's right. So I think being detail focused, and these venues are kind of like sets, And he would always say himself, that you're not the main event. You basically you are, as bartenders in particular, you're in the house band. You know, you're in the house band. You're just there to make sure that people are having a great time, and no more, no less. And we're not saving lives. We're making drinks, and making drinks is not rocket science. Anybody that tells you that it is just really, really seeking more approval from mum and dad. Heads up, pal. They're just drinks. Like give people a good time. I love that. I think it's great, and I like to think that our kids feel the exact same way in all three of the venues. I think we don't put any emphasis on the celebrity of the venue or the job or anything like that. It's really about people. Without the people, we've got no jobs. It's some pretty simple math, which is great because I'm not that intelligent. So the simple math is really easy. So,
With that in mind, Michael, while we've been at home, making our own bread, drinking drinks that we can have delivered to our homes, we can even have ice delivered to our homes. Netflix exists, Spotify, we just have all this stuff, like being to our house, people will bring us things. There's been a lot of discussion among restaurateurs and bartenders about what it is that people actually want when they go out. What if it's not about the drink?
mm-hmm.
Why will people go to bars once they can do that legally and or safely again? What are they going to bars for?
I think I feel like it's a really I think it's a very simple need in all of us to be social, to be around people, and to be experiencing something that is slightly outside the norm of your day-to-day life. I think going out to venues, restaurants, and all that jazz is a really great way to it's adding color, it's really adding a lot of color to your day, your life, your weeks, what have you. I think I'm not worried about people staying in forever, because it's just not what we do. I think venues are what we need. I think they enrich our lives, and I'm not worried about that. I think I can't wait on our end here. We can't wait to give it back to them. And it's the same as buying a cookbook. Like you make that dish in the cookbook. For me, maybe I just fuck it up every time, but it's not the same as being in the venue. And I've always thought that about making drinks at home myself. And anybody can make a Negroni. That is by far, that is such a simple drink to make. But when you receive a Negroni in a bar with considered details, like low lighting, nice music, some friendly service, and a comfy seat, well then all of a sudden that drink tastes so much better than the one that you made at home, which is absolutely identical. In many ways. So the experience will never replace. It'll never be replaced. You can't replace the experience of being in a venue that you love. And I think that's why I've got a lot of confidence in, our return to venues, because I feel like people know that they deserve something different, something exciting.
Michael, a wise man said in December 2019 in an interview with Bartender magazine, quote, "The stagnant and the outdated have no place in 2020. There's change in the air."
Mm.
What do you think that man meant? That was you, by the way.
Was it really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Good. That's cool. Didn't know I said that. That's awesome.
Did you know
I'm
something
right.
that we don't?
I was right. I was right then. Oh my god, man! I need a pay rise. No. Yeah, absolutely. I hate. We hate complacency as a group. We never ever rest on what we've done or what we're doing. I think if you're not challenging yourselves and your team as well, then you're just not going to get better. And I find it really boring if you are not improving what you do all the time, or challenging yourselves. What's the point? I think you can make the same drinks day in day out, and like you've got to learn. And I think it's really important for the team, for the bartenders to also understand that challenging yourself is incredibly important for growth. And I think for us, we would love to do more venues and do more interesting kind of projects. I think that's what gets me super excited these days. But I think that, like if you're not looking inside, or you're not looking at all the things that you're not doing right all the time, then you're not going to grow properly, I think. But look, the industry, I feel like there's a lot that get by on a mediocre offering and level. And I think that, I think they need to pull their socks up. I think anyone that thinks that they can kind of take anyone for a ride and put crap in a glass, I think needs a good shake up anyway. And I've always felt that way. That's probably what I was referring to in 19. Or way back then. When things were good.
We're just about to run out of time here, but I have some other wise words that I thought I might share to close with. We don't have an open date on your venues as yet, but we are awaiting those with bated breath. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, quote, "Cold beer and warm service, turn the lights down and the music up."
I love that.
The Michael and Zara Madrusan story.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. It's been great having you be part of the Melbourne Food and Wine Festival online edition.
Thank you so much. Well, look, the Ev opens Thursday the 4th. This is our first big. We're opening the Everleigh first, so we're pretty excited about that. So the 4th of June, look out, everyone. We're coming back, and it's going to be fun.
All right.
But, thank you so much for having me.
It's been a pleasure. I'll see you on Thursday by the sounds of things.
Oh, that sounds great.
Till then, Michael, thank you. Good night.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.